Olá, eu sou Gabriel Estrela e esse é o Agroamérica, programa em parceria com o Instituto Interamericano de Cooperação para a Agricultura, o ICA, aqui no AgroMais. A proposta é mostrar iniciativas inovadoras e compartilhar boas práticas nos 34 Estados-membros. Hoje o assunto é um projeto de agricultura resiliente em Trinidade e Tobago, que visa melhorar a mitigação dos impactos da mudança climática por meio da gestão de recursos hídricos e reabilitação de solos degradados. Tudo isso por meio de práticas que podem ser aplicadas por agricultores familiares. Quem conversa com a gente é um dos vencedores do prêmio A Alma da Ruralidade, que o ICA outorga a líderes da ruralidade nas Américas. Ramgopal Rup é um agricultor, empreendedor e consultor de boas práticas rurais. Ele tem mais de 50 anos de experiência no setor agroindustrial, no meio público e privado e atual administrador regional da Associação Caribenha do Agronegócio. What is resilient agriculture and the role of agriculture farmers in combating climate change?
Resilient agriculture is one, you need to understand your vulnerability, how vulnerable you are to the impacts of climate change. And having that knowledge, you would be able to implement practices that would make you become resilient. And some of the smallholder farmers, they are among most of the world's poorest people who directly depend on soil and water as the primary resource base for their livelihoods. So soil and water management are key aspects of building resilience to this climate change and the impact of climate change. We should take note also that some of the characteristics of smallholder farmers is that smallholder farmers, there are approximately 570 million small farms worldwide, and they cultivate in less than 2 hectares, occupying lands on traditional and informal tenure. These are in risk-prone areas and on marginal soils. However, they account for 84% of all farms and produce approximately 30% of food globally. These farmers constitute approximately 75% of the world's underprivileged, hungry, and undernourished people. They are most vulnerable to climate impact, which result in significant yield gaps. Because of limited adaptive capacity to climate change, based on a lack of knowledge and experience, low income, small farm size, inadequate access to technical assistance and market, marginalization to resources, information, technology, capital, and assets. They appear inadequate to cope with the challenges of production. So that the smallholder farmers, they need assistance, and due to economies of scales, their investment capacity and a lack of technical knowledge, they can contribute to their contribution can decline over time. In regions such as Latin America and the Caribbean, smallholder farms employ more than 60 million people and contribute 30 to 40% to the agricultural GDP. Additionally, primarily due to the close bond between family farms and the rural landscape, smallholder family farms are also identified as a critical instrument in reducing poverty and other social ills. Approximately 80% of the global agricultural production depends on rain-fed cultivation, especially in the tropics. And in the tropics, there are several types of problem soils, such as shallow soils, heavy clay, saline, and steep gradients with strong, highly erodible, and strongly acidic or alkaline qualities. These soils present unique agricultural water management challenges with different levels of severity. However, heavy clay soils arguably present the most severe water and crop management challenges because they become sticky or heavy when wet and very hard and shrink and compacted during dry conditions. I am cultivating on heavy clay soils. Crop production on heavy clay soils is restricted by severe moisture deficiencies during the dry season when the lands are desiccated. These restrictions consist of physical factors including high bulk densities and very high soil resistance, which result in poor root-soil relationship. Heavy clay soils are compact with low infiltration rates, inadequate root depth, limited root room resulting in from soil genetic factors or localized tillage practices impose severe constraints on rain-fed crop production. 80% of the farms worldwide, smallholder farms worldwide, are rain-fed. And in Trinidad and Tobago and most of the Caribbean, most of the soils are heavy clay. Trinidad, 70% of the soils for agriculture is heavy clay, consists of heavy clay soils. So while there are no silver bullet solutions, we need to adapt and modify technologies based on each situation.
Can you give an example of one of these modifications, technological modifications, which we can assume have to be cost efficient as well for family farmers to be able to afford them?
One of the soil management is soil amelioration, in that you heavy clay soil. In my case, what I did, we did heavy chiseling, deep plowing, and forming beds, not long beds, but for smallholder farms, short beds with adequate drainage. It is important. It is important to establish drainage because in the rain season we are subjected to flooding and we need to get that water out as quickly as possible. But at the same time, on smallholder farms, what is necessary is that you don't let the water go to waste. You need to have storage capacity for that water and harvest that water on the farm so that you can utilize it for irrigation purposes. Yeah.
And with this kind of adaptation, I mean, a lot of the family farmers don't have much space. Usually, throughout the American continent, agricultural family farmers have small-scale land. Is this ability to capture all the water and store it on the farm, what is, on your experience, the capacity that these family farmers can achieve, especially in countries where the seasons are varied between rain season and a dry season, in which they have to store this water for the dry season, which can last for more than 3-4 months?
That is a very good question. My example here is that I've on small farms, we need to construct adequate ponds, water irrigation ponds. When I say ponds, I mean these ponds should be constructed to technical specifications, not just digging a hole in the ground, but you need to line these ponds properly and set your drainage should be linked so that the water from your farms can be harvested and recycled back into your pond so that you would be able to store as much water and plan your cropping patterns so that you would be able to survive for the 3 or 4 months of extreme dry weather. Because in the rainy season, you must be able to provide a situation where you can get that water out of your farm. And there would be need to have spillways. So from your pond, you can let that excess water go flow into the receiving environment, such as the water channels and rivers and so forth.
I wanted to know, what are some of the agroecological practices to rehabilitate soil, especially in areas that are already arid and that need to be rehabilitated around the continent? And if you have an example in Trinidad and Tobago, please share with us.
Oh yes. As I said, My farm is a smallholder farm, 1.5 hectares. And we have ameliorated that farm, add limestone, and your practices should be based on the agroecology techniques, where you minimize your use of pesticide and weedicide, and we need to cultivate on small farms. We need to intercrop with trees, not only fruit trees and so forth, but we need to have trees like leguminous trees that can provide windbreaks and provide shade for your cropping system, and that is very important. Like on my farm, I have trees around the periphery that serve as windbreaks in time of storms and so forth, and provide a cooling effect on it. Uh, Weed control, what we do with weed control, we cut the grass and leave it as mulch. So you keep your land, you keep the help to keep the land cool during the dry season. So you do not spray and remove all the weeds from the soil. Weeds plays an important part in cropping. Many people do not understand that the importance of having weeds on your field. You need to have crops providing shade for other crops. For example, farmers can do in the rainy season, they can provide a drain, develop the farm in such a way that the water do not go to waste. In the Caribbean, we cultivate what we call dashing or the taro, where it utilizes the water. So what I have done is that in the drains throughout the field that flows into the irrigation pond, we have the dashing or the taro that provides a crop. So you utilize that water as it flows into it. It is not just a bare drain, it is one that with a crop that has economic value in it.
The diversification of crops that are planted in the area, along with the utilization of trees, not only for shade but also for a wind barrier, is very important. How is this soil management differ between mainland crop production and hilly area crop production? Is there a difference that family farmers should know about?
Yes, and you see, as I said, there is no silver bullet solution. It depends on your location. But in hilly areas, what we need to learn, and there's what I talk about, the technical competence of smallholder farmers, and whether they need that support, is that on hilly areas we need to cultivate along the contours, but along the contours also you need to plant trees. We need to populate the land with trees. The last IPSS IPCC report state that we are nearing 1.5 degrees increase, so that we have to do things. We need to cover the land space. Um, they in many countries they look at trying to get into protective agriculture, but protective agriculture can just do so much, protect you, but it cannot protect for the environment. You need trees.
And so the power of the agricultural farmer who has small area, may it be in Trinidad and Tobago, in Argentina, in Brazil, in Mexico, or in other countries, they have a fundamental role in the climate change agenda as well. What are some of the points that we haven't spoken about, aside from crop diversification, the implementation of forests, and not also cutting down forests in order to have a larger and more direct impact on the mitigation of climate change?
Yes, you see, cut it down. Every tree that you cut down, you need to plant back one. It is very important, and it took years for a tree to grow, and you need to be selective in the trees. There are trees that we plant in many regions, which is the neem, which has it acts as a pesticide. also it help keep the environment cool, and it is very green and shady and spread out, so that you have to change. We need to talk about agroecology. We need, because it is one of the system where we can integrate our cropping patterns and get away from monocropping, so that we can contribute towards the building resilience to the impact of climate change. And this is what you spoke about earlier. How do you build resilience? But you need to build resilience not only on one prong, but on your whole aspect of smallholder farming. A point of smallholder farming also is that there's an aging population on smallholder farm, and what is the situation with succession planning? How do we encourage youths to be on the farm? It is a challenge, and as I said earlier, most of these farms operate without land tenure, or informal land tenure, and they are mostly on marginal or risk-prone environment. And with smallholder family and small farms, how many children can remain on the farm? So it is not just planting, but it's a whole business concept on sustainable agriculture, and that is what we have to focus. How do you retain sustainable agriculture for the next generation, so that the present generation of farmers need to transfer that traditional knowledge to a next generation, and we need a training process.
So there's a process of adaptation between not only finding the appropriate means of agroecology and how to implement that in the different case scenarios of different agricultural farmers, but also a sense of business planning. Could you give
Exactly, you need that
some
business
examples?
concept.
Yes. Could you give
Yes.
some examples of some of the key changes that small agricultural farmers need to implement to improve their business or even begin their business planning?
30 years ago, I have started as a smallholder farmer. I'm a graduate in agriculture, but 30 years ago, I have started implemented agroecology and these technical measures, so that and I have registered my business 30 years ago. And when you register your business as a smallholder farm and you trade, you build credit rating for yourself. Without showing records, we need to teach farmers how to keep records, so you can present your records to bankers, because you need finance, and you must show that you have the capacity to manage money and manage a business. Without that, we would continue in cycles. Remember, smallholder farmers, they are guilty of their own self-exploitation.
Given this scenario, we know that to have credit access, obviously presenting your credentials, being able to keep these records are very important for anybody in society. Now I'd like to know a little bit about what are the key practices that you think small family farmers need to learn or implement in order to create this better scenario for themselves. You said that they needed a role model, let's say, or a messenger, but what are one of these key practices that you find is very necessary within, let's say, a family that is usually poor, does not have many resources? What can they do to improve their situation?
Well, what I've been talking over the years is that smallholder farms and family farms, you need to be living on your farm, and the authorities, government, and so on need to provide infrastructure for these family farms to stay on their farm. You, if they are living in distance away from the farm, I have implemented the concept of lean management. And your lean management is to reduce waste in all aspects of your business. And lean management is that in reducing waste, you're reducing waste in movement. And if you are on your farm, you have to design your farm in such a way that you minimize wastage uh, in time and movement, but you'll be able to reduce wastage with your harvest, because if you do not have storage facilities when you harvest your product and it is exposed to the sun and the rain, you would your crop would start deteriorated, your harvest will start deteriorated immediately after harvest. And we are in pandemic, we're in climate, we're in COVID, we talk about sanitary conditions. So we need to start to look at providing sanitary conditions for farmers so that they will be able to grow food, because there's need for traceability. We need to know where the food is coming from. And your people need to be accounted where your food is coming from, your method of production, and all your sanitary measures and so forth. So it's a different type of thinking that need to a messenger to give this different type of thinking, and to talk about succession planning. And you just do not talk about succession planning. For example, in my case, I have implemented succession planning. I inherited my farm from my parents, and work on it for 40 years, and now I've passed it on to my son. He's an engineer. That's my son, but I have developed something that he can follow.
Yes.
And you must be able to work your farm that you can harvest and sell something on a weekly basis, throughout the year. We have been marketing throughout the year. We have limes as our main crop, and we have been selling limes on a weekly basis. From 3 to 1.5 hectares, we have about approximately one hectare, 1.2 hectares cultivated with limes, and we can harvest as much as 10,000-15,000 limes on a weekly basis.
Talking about crop diversification as well as having something year-round, one of your projects is also on cassava plantation, correct? And cassava can be cultivated in many different regions. At least here in Brazil, it's a very, very popular crop, and we consume it in very different ways. Could you, resumably, because we don't have much time, talk about this project for us, please?
But this cassava project is not my personal project. I work as a consultant with the Trinidad and Tobago Agribusiness Association, where there was a 5-year project to develop the agricultural sector, and company with the Caribbean Agribusiness Association also. So what we did with the leading regional organization, ICA, CARDI, FAO, the CTA, we linked with the farmers who are growing cassava, we linked with Clayuca, we linked with Venezuela, and get farmers to grow cassava. What has happened is that with the closure of the sugar industry in Trinidad, most of the sugar land, it is not conducive to growing vegetable crops as such, but it is easy to grow crops like cassava. So there's an extensive production of cassava. What we have done with cassava, we look at developing the value chain and different products from it. So if I can show you here, we produce the cassava bread from it. We produce cassava logs, and so the value added to it, and you produce it in a very attractive packaging. In a way, you have to up your product need to be, you need to treasure your product and do it in a way that people can buy it. For example, my limes, when I sell to the supermarket, I package my limes with labels so that you can see the labels in it. This is one of the labels that I have with my limes, right?
Fantastic.
It is packaged in different sizes so that it is in the supermarket. So people just
Fantastic.
pick up one. It tells you where it is coming from. Is a farm that we had one agricultural entrepreneur. It is certified. You give a background of it, and so when people they know that they can trace it where this product coming from. And this is farmers. We need to get them to think as businessmen, and we
Fantastic.
need messengers outside there.
Well, we've gone from crop diversification to agroecology to also business planning and now marketing. Ram Gopal, we are out of time right now, and I would like to thank you so much for your participation. Your work is very, very inspiring, and we're very honored to have you here.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be on the program, and it's a pleasure to share my experiences. And I am telling you not something from the book. I'm telling you what I have practiced, and what I'm doing, and what I emphasize is that we need to educate the population. We need to educate our farmers, and I'm showing that it is never too old to learn. You can learn. For example, I graduated in agriculture in 1971, but I got my MBA in 2016 when I was 69, and I got my master's in human resource management when I was 71, and I've applied to do my PhD at 74. So that we need to tell people outside there that you're never too old to learn, that you can learn. And all I'm like to leave this message that if you take care of the land will take care of you. Mahatma Gandhi said that if you live as today is your last day, but learn as if you would live forever. And this is the message that I want to share with you all also.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ram Gopal. It's never late to learn. Practice makes perfect, as well as taking care of the land will take care of us. We'll be sure to remember that. Thank you so much for your participation.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.